knocking him down. Oh, side flip, caveman, Mike V. See a little bit of everything here in Cole's second.
That's great. Threw the suitcase at me.
I was choked multiple times to the point of not thinking I would survive.
James Chris Cole, also known as Chris Cobra Cole, was born on March 10, 1982, in Statesville, North Carolina, USA. As a kid, Chris asked his mom for a skateboard, but she said no. It took him 2 years of convincing before he finally got his first skateboard. That moment on, he was completely consumed by the art. He fell in love with skateboarding and practiced every day. Growing up, Chris was inspired by Rodney Mullen. At one point, Mullen held a manual contest Thomas, the owner of Zero Skateboards and one of the biggest names in skateboarding at the time. Jamie was shocked by what he saw.
I was at Tomieto one day and someone was like, hey, you gotta see the Sponsor Me tape that came in. And I was kind of like, what's the big deal? You know, whatever. We get Sponsor Me tapes all the time. They're like, no, you gotta see it. Anyway, it was the first time I heard Chris Cole's name, or the first time I'd ever heard of Chris Cole. Basically watched the video and I kind of knew what they were talking about. It was this dude who was doing tricks that a lot of them hadn't been seen at the time, and then he had this really, you know, call it extravagant gear. He had like I remember the thing that stuck out the most was the camouflage, like this mustard camouflage. Kind of like a, I don't know, a harsh, like School of Hard Knocks like conversation in order to encourage him, not encourage him, but in order to let him know what I felt. And there was a few, you know, obvious things that were holding him back, and pushing Mongo was the biggest one.
If you're gonna ride for Zero, you gotta switch your gear, and if you're gonna kick flip or 360 flip or whatever you wanna do down the love cap, you're not gonna piss pedal to it. Like, you're not gonna Mongo push to the fucking love gap because that's just unacceptable.
According to Jamie, Chris didn't quite fit the Zero team at that time, but Jamie admired his skateboarding.
You know, Zero had a definitive image, and Cole at the time didn't fit that at all.
The two ended up touring together for Circa, a company that sponsored them both. This experience had a huge influence on Chris.
I think he's one of the most talented skaters I've ever seen.
From that point on, there was no stopping Chris Cole. He became the first and only skater to win Thrasher's Skater of the Year twice. He dominated competitions, winning the X Games, Street League Skateboarding, and Battle at the Barracks.
Chris Cole!
He destroyed the streets as well. His tray flip down Wallenberg is legendary, and his list of iconic tricks goes on and on. In short, he became a living legend. However, struggle ultimately cost him everything he had worked for.
Chris just being violent.
In mid-2024, professional skateboarder Chris Cole faced serious allegations of domestic violence from his ex-wife, Christine Flanagan.
Some serious allegations here when it comes to like threatening someone's life. He says, I realized the other day that I still have a ton of trauma from my former life. My name was taken from me. It wasn't a choice. When I told my ex my name, he replied, that will never work. We can't have the same name and I'm more famous, so I win. Plus, I've always wanted a red. That is literally what was said to me. I was instantly their property and treated subhuman. I hated it, but lost the battle and it stuck for far too long. He took my name away and then systematically proceeded to take away everything else from me thereafter. My education, my career, my control, until he one day nearly took my life.
Flanagan publicly accused Cole of years of emotional and physical abuse, sharing detailed accounts and evidence on social media platforms.
You know, we were both drinking and I just didn't want to you know, my son was really young at the time and just wasn't into it, you know? Yeah. And I'd made that very clear, and he got really angry. I was drunk and I fell asleep in the hotel room, and I woke up the next day and there was just, you know, evidence. I had semen in and on me, and I just, you know, I knew that I had been penetrated, and just asked him, like, you know, what happened, why is this here, you know, and he just got kind of sheepish for a little bit and was just like, you know, well, I knew you didn't want to, so I just thought it would be better if you stayed asleep, so I didn't wake you up and just let you sleep through it. So that's why I didn't wake you up, because I knew you wouldn't be into it. So I thought it would be better for you if you just stayed asleep. And I was like, that's
Their son corroborated these allegations, expressing support for his mother and condemning Cole's actions.
I was pushed downstairs. My teeth were broken with a beer bottle. I had 100-pound suitcases thrown at me at skate contests. I was choked multiple times to the point of not thinking I would survive. My children's lives were threatened. He threatened to unalive my children. My kids witnessed all of this. I have evidence. So that's where I'm at currently.
In response to these accusations, several of Cole's sponsors, including Spitfire Wheels, Thunder Trucks, and Zero Skateboards, severed ties with him. Cole publicly denied the allegations, stating they were beyond shocking and categorically false. The skateboarding community's reaction has been mixed. While some have expressed support for Flanagan, others remain skeptical, awaiting further evidence or legal proceedings.
I don't know too much about it, honestly, Kula, but thank you for the donation. We appreciate
always
you,
appreciate it, bro.
I love Kula, dude. Back in the chat, man. But yeah, honestly, I don't know too much about it. I haven't been following along, so I don't know. But
it's a lot to touch on, bro. It's a lot to touch on. You gotta leave certain things alone.
Discussions on platforms like Reddit and the Slap magazine forums have been particularly active, reflecting a range of opinions and concerns.
Next, we've got a few Reddit posts, but this is basically just people like discussing the whole situation. The Zero team and also Chris himself are deleting and banning any comments and blocking anybody that brings this up in their Instagram comments and stuff like that, which is a mad sus thing to do. Like, that kind of screams guilty in my opinion.
Current statements around the alleged abuse, where, as I pointed out earlier, every time I can find that Chris has discussed this, he has brought up his children. He keeps mentioning his children over and over again. Right now, what do we have? Okay, Chris basically is asking you to take his word that he is innocent, while Christine has supplied a significant amount of evidence against him. In my opinion, there's no question who I believe at this time. I think the people who still blindly believe Chris Cole with no evidence are probably doing so for political reasons. Chris's innocence aligns with views a lot of people hold about general trends and ideas, war on masculinity, cancel culture. It suits or reinforces their worldview to believe that there is a coordinated conspiracy to defame Chris Cole. Without looking into it, most people are going to default to taking the side that aligns, again, with their pre-existing worldview. This applies to people that automatically believed Chris and applies to people who automatically believed Christine as well. In my opinion, it is extremely difficult to maintain that stance of supporting Chris Cole after examining this evidence. You would essentially have to be in complete denial about this to blindly accept Chris Cole's version of events. Personal observation about this, I have a ton of respect for Christine. This is an unbelievably difficult situation that she has documented and organized with so much information and scrutinizing detail.
One thing we get learned from this is that everything in life is gained by the drop and lost by the bucket.